What's up, everybody? This SOS Rampage is back at you with the second episode review of The Ultimate Fighter Season 33. It was definitely a good episode, I would say, to start. I mean, the fights have been good and solid, and the personalities have been good and solid to start, between the coaches and the athletes themselves. I appreciated him just joining me on this journey and watching along with me, as well as just watching the show, commenting, all that good stuff. But yeah, let's get into it. This week we had Daniil versus Richard. Daniil from Cormier's team and Richard from Chael's team. Kind of giving like a brief synopsis like I've been doing, as far as like I don't want to go too into detail, just kind of like keeping it short and sweet and kind of how I see it from watching The Ultimate Fighter as I do, but also kind of breaking it down, I guess, in my way. I don't know the right way to say it. It was interesting, and you could tell, especially with they had Chael bring in TJ Dillashaw, and that's what they're apparently going to be doing. They're going to be bringing different Ultimate Fighter champions and all different winners from past seasons and stuff like that. It was interesting to hear his perspective and how he, was wanted to retire so bad, but now he kind of misses it, and that seems like how a lot of fighters act. And also seeing him teach them kind of his basic TJ Dillashaw combo of that, 1-2 kick, the Dwayne Ludwig that he taught him eventually, is very, very interesting to see. You could tell, and this was also kind of the giveaway, and I guess this is, spoiler alert towards the end of, the fight. You could tell because they let it up as Daniil is this, very, very versatile kickboxer, and which, I mean, he was. And, Richard has this kind of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu background, but he can also strike, but he also has that ground game. The minute that he went into training and, talked to Chael, and, the look on Chael's face when he was just like, I want to strike with him. I want to test myself on the feet with him. Chael's the exact, okay. From there on, you kind of knew that Chael knew this wasn't the right way to go about things and that it was going to not go well. But he, I do like that strategy and kind of what he's following up on from episode 1, what he said of like, you can't really change the thought process on a lot of these guys. You can kind of just tweak and try to better them all that you can. Like, you can't really create a new fighter. You have to just kind of lean into their strengths and kind of try to hide their weaknesses as much as possible. So, but you also can't make them do it. Like we've seen in multiple seasons and episodes of The Ultimate Fighter, people go out there and go against the coach's strategy completely. At least, he was honest about what he was going to do, instead of Chael trying to be like, no, you can't do that. So, the honesty you got to appreciate. Richard's background was kind of, he seemed to have a decent life, he has some birds and nice girlfriend. He seemed like that was his big storyline was, that he missed her, which, I mean, understandable. There's been plenty that have had that storyline throughout. Daniil, very much so. And it was interesting that they showed him training with, Robert Valentin, because very, very similar mindsets, very, very similar ways that they think about things, just the violence, the art of violence, just the striking versatilities. I mean, they also train in that Tiger Muay Thai, which, I mean, it was very, very interesting hearing his background of, going to Thailand and everything like that. It was very, very interesting to see and hear him also speak on like how they were all looking at the pictures of The Ultimate Fighter season 1. And I mean, that's a classic one for, I mean, any MMA fan, especially when they were pointing out, Forrest Griffin. Any MMA fan can point out Forrest Griffin. You would think a fighter would be able to in an instant, and he didn't know who that was because they don't have TV, they don't have stuff like that over there in his country. So it's very interesting to see the perspectives and how he kind of came up and how he was raised and how he still was able to, be the fighter that he is today, kind of idea. So it was very, very interesting, and just kind of hearing, them almost trying to prep for and letting him flow with his striking, but also trying to prep for that ground game that little bit. But they really just kind of leaned into having him, practice that striking, practice that kind of flow idea. So, that was for the most part. how the lead up was. I mean, it was pretty clean as far as the face off wasn't anything crazy like the last episode. They were just kind of pretty friendly about it. The fight itself, it was definitely a very very fun fight. I honestly, that like a lot of people did, I thought that first fury, that first flurry that Daniil hit Richard with, I thought that was going to end it with just he swarmed him on the fence, and it just seemed like that was going to be it. But Richard hung in there. He's very tough. I mean, there was a lot of shots that he got hit with that would have put a lot of people down. You saw at the end of round one, he did kind of lean into the grappling, which you could see if he would have tried to do that the whole fight, it would have definitely been a different fight. Would he have won it? I'm not 100% sure, but it definitely would have been, I think, better for him overall. And I think it might have, led to a different outcome. But I do think that I could see them giving Richard a shot in the future. It ended up being a decision going to Daniil. So now we have one from each team. We have a flyweight in Joseph Morales, and we also have Daniil from Team Cormier's team. As far as, and then we're going back to the flyweights next week. But I definitely think Daniil's got some sort of future in the UFC no matter what, whether he wins this competition or not. He definitely has a good personality, kind of like I said, kind of like Robert Valentines. He's got some good striking, which Dana always kind of likes. So I think he's going to get a shot no matter what. But like I said, going into next week, they had the flyweight announcement where they're going to have Emo, or let me make sure I'm saying that right. Imano Rodriguez and Aishion Mima. I know I'm going to mess up a lot of names this. Memin. I'm going to mess up a lot of names this season because there's a lot of, people from different countries and different names that are, longer. That's why I didn't even really try Daniil's last name, Don Checo, and Richard Martins. So that's why I kind of stick to the first names after I get them down. And I'm sure they'll have kind of nicknames and stuff like that if their names are that hard and difficult. But looks like they're going to bring Carlos Esparza in next week, so that should be interesting and giving them a little bit of a basics as far as like some grappling and different things like that. But yeah, I do like the way that the season is breaking down so far. Like I said, between the fights and the different personalities, and it really does base on the fights no matter what. You can have whatever personalities you want. You can have all the lead ups, all that, but if the fights turn into stinkers, it really doesn't matter. And they don't have to finish every single fight. It just has to be exciting. It has to be points where you feel like someone's going to be finished or back and forth or what have you. Like, you just need that basic, and it's not just for MMA fans. I think it's also for, the casual audience. You need some sort of excitement going on, or why get invested? Why get involved that much kind of idea, which I can understand that because that's kind of how I've always looked at it of, yes, it's the reality concept, but the fight is what it leads all to. And it's the, the climax of everything. That being said, I appreciate anybody tuning in. I'm recording this like an hour before episode 3, where I'm going to be going live on Twitch and playing some UFC and watching along with it. Like I said last time, I like to give it a couple watch throughs because, like I said, when I watch it the first time, I watch it live on Twitch, and I'm playing the game, and then I like to give it like a full watch as I'm like sitting down and doing my own thing to kind of break everything down. So that's why it comes out a little bit later. I'm going to try to get it out a little bit earlier next time, but yeah, that's kind of how it works out. Please check out my video for UFC Fight Night Atlanta with Buckley and Usman. I'll be putting that out in the next couple days, and all my gaming videos. Just started the UFC career, the UFC 5 career of Doe's Life, aka the Juggernaut. So, that will be coming out over the next couple weeks or so. So, very, very excited about that. Check out my shorts, check out all that good stuff, all on the side. Should be over on this side over here. You see all those pretty videos. Check them out, please. And I appreciate y'all. Let me know in the comments section what you want me to touch on a little bit more. If you want me to go back in time on these other Ultimate Fighters, if you want me to do a little bit more of a breakdown, a little bit more analysis on these fights and, the episodes and different things like that, I'm very, very open to feedback. But I appreciate y'all, and I will catch y'all on the next episode.